What's up, Conroe? Welcome to a brand new edition of Nerd Thug Sports right here on 104.5, 106.1, the sister stations, and we're streaming worldwide at irlonestar.com. As always, you can check out facebook.com/Nerd Thug Radio, and we can hang out there and do all sorts of fun stuff, talk to each other, whisper in each other's ears, have romantic dates. All right there on facebook.com/Nerd Thug Radio. Story DLG with as usual is brother Nico. What's up, man?
I don't even know how to follow that up, but okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll light some candles. We'll play a little Marvin Gaye and
just like a live, but it's like taking the audience as your date.
But we'll just we'll have a good time. We'll tell stories. We'll just talk about stuff. We'll really just.
I'm just here to
connect.
talk.
We'll just connect. It'll be beautiful. Oh my God! This is Nerd Thug Sports, the sportiest sport in the sport universe.
Go sports, yeah.
Go sports! Woo!
Sports team ball go.
Is that how that? Are those even the right words? I think we're about 96 days away from Comicpalooza.
Look at that.
Behind the scenes, we are working hard to get involved and get to be a part of that. So hopefully we will be. I know Nico has filled out several panel applications already so that we can join up on stuff.
Oh yeah, I'll never see each other again. It's fine. So many panels that we'll just be separated the whole day.
The tide will pull us apart, but love will bring us together.
Yeah, see? Look at that.
There you go. Yeah, so we're in an interesting time in sports. We're coming up on one of the most exciting and dumbest times in all of football.
I was going to say baseball forever.
No, we are at the start of the baseball season, though.
So baseball forever.
Baseball forever. And yes, baseball has started its 9-month season here.
It's so awful. It's
not quite an exact. I mean, it's pretty. So, I guess technically it's an 8-month season that baseball has just started.
That's insanity.
Get excited.
Means baseball's off season is only a third as long as the actual time you play baseball. It's not true it's not true for any other sport.
It really isn't. And then think about the days when they have double headers and they play 2 games at once or whatever.
Yeah, whatever, dude. Play 300 games. A single game is not relevant. You're going with law of large numbers here, and what it basically boils down to is every team's 50-50, and if you're worse than that, you're not good.
So I have they were giving away one of the baseball games recently on the PlayStation Network.
Yeah.
So I just clicked on it just for fun. And so I was messing with it the other day, and I laughed because I remember telling you how basically a 100-win team is rare. The record is 105 or 107 or something like that. So I first year of the Astros team, it's the team from, this is the 20 version, so the team from not this season but last season.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes on to win we win 101 games, and all of a sudden somehow I'm in the very opening round of the 1-game play-in for the playoffs. And I'm like, what? How I have 101 wins? I should be. And I go to look, and there are 3 teams above me with 101 wins. And I was like, oh, okay. So all of us had historic seasons. Cool. Because I think the best season in the history of the Houston Astros is 102 wins or whatever. That was the World Series year, if I remember correctly.
I was large numbers. This is the worst sport ever.
I kind of got mad. I kind of got real mad at that because I was like, I just won 101 games and I am the 4th place in this league. What?
It's like all the It's like you go to a school where there's 5 valedictorians.
Did you see that news story where there were 9?
Yeah, Literally 9. Well, at one of the high schools I went to, there was 4.
I don't like. They used to pick a person, and that was the end of it.
Well, they were like, well, all of them had the same GPA because all of them had 5.0s or whatever.
But there's only one winner. Like they used to not share it.
Well, it's hard to pick one if they're all the same.
Well, there was a cutthroat thing in my high school for like the top 4 spots. Like they all knew who was in like the top 5 spots, and they knew where they were. And they were like, so and so's getting an A in whatever. So like, I guess I have to have like, and they knew what they needed in all the classes. And there was this one girl. I won't say her name because this isn't a good story for her. But she would take her gym out of the school district. She took her family. Her family said that she was a ballerina. I don't know if she was or not. She did a presentation one time where she put the bottom of her foot to the back of her head, which I guess makes you a ballerina. I don't know what that. I don't know anything about it. But so at one point though, the school district changed their rules about out of district gym.
Mm-hmm.
Because the grade ahead of us had a girl who was in the Olympic trials for high diving.
Whoa.
So they had a rule where they were like, oh, well, yeah, Lauren can obviously participate in the Olympics. So, yeah, that counts as her gym.
Right, yeah. It'd be kind of stupid to be like, hey, Olympic high diver, can you run a lap in a gym?
Right.
Like 4 times?
The state of Texas require you be able to do 5 sit-ups and 5 pull-ups unless physically disabled.
Right, yeah. Are you going to be able to play dodgeball?
Yeah. She's like, guys, I'm trying to win a gold medal for our country. She wound up not qualifying. The trials, I think, they happened the year after she graduated, though, and but the school district was super excited and super supportive of her going through that process. So like her senior year, I believe that girl went to like several national events. But after she left, the school district over that summer changed the rule. It was kind of a pain in the butt because there was a little bit of correspondence between like her coaches and the district that had to happen to verify that she was, meeting her obligations of like physical activity, even though obviously she was.
Yeah, it seems silly, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, did they actually? And it's like, yes, obviously.
Right.
Like, sorry, I just have to ask.
Yeah, the school district has to dot its I's and cross its T's because they do certify that you completed a state-sponsored education or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So they changed the rule over the summer. So coming into our senior year, all of a sudden this girl has like no gym credits for all of high school, and you need 1.5 to even graduate. And so, which means that at this point she will not be graduating with all of us, and she's like 4th in the class.
It's hilarious.
And so it was a major scandal. Listen, let me rephrase. It was not a major scandal. I did not even wake up and care. But it was a roar among the top 10 because apparently the others didn't even like her. They were like, "This will show her."
Yeah, can't graduate top 4 if you're not even graduating, idiot.
But I thought I saw on Facebook like 7 years ago that she was dating someone who was genuinely European royalty. So I think it turned out okay for her.
That's fair.
And I think they appealed the change, and they were like, if you're gonna change something like this, you have to grandfather it because blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and
I can't just like vanish credits from my thing that I already did.
Yeah, it's just like I only have 1 year left, and you just made me need 1.5 years of something. And they were like, "Oh,
did I do that?"
One of those very typical dumb bureaucracy type moments where they're just like, "Oh, I see what you're saying. You're right."
I love the one where my favorite story of terrible bureaucracy is the one where the state wrongfully declared someone as being dead. The guy didn't know though, because he very much was alive.
Right,
and
right.
then tried to appeal it, and because it took too long, he's now dead.
He died during the appeal process.
No, he didn't actually die. Like he's like the state thinks he's dead, even though he's very much alive. And because it took too long for the appeal process to go through, he can't change it, and he's just dead now.
That's awesome.
So he's legally dead.
Does that mean like he got to cash in his insurance? Like his
I
life
would
insurance
like
and
I'd be
stuff?
like, hey, I'm here for my life insurance.
Yo, my name's Todd. That's me. I'm gonna need that check, y'all.
Here's my
death certificate.
Here's my death certificate.
There was a guy in jail who had a heart attack and was dead for several minutes, and then they brought him back to life, and he was serving a life sentence. He now is appealing that he wants out of jail.
Yeah, he died.
He died.
It's not actually what life means, but it's fine.
Listen, if someone tells me I'm in prison for life and I die, it doesn't matter how long I die to me. We're settled.
Yeah, I come to find out that's not what that means at all.
You got one life from me. Congratulations.
That's the meme that Jon Snow used in Game of Thrones.
That is how he quit the Ravens. He was like,
he died and they resurrected him, and he's like, boom, not part of the Ravens anymore, idiots.
Yeah.
I gave my life.
I'm back alive. I'm not still alive. See you later, people.
It's pretty smart.
Resurrections exempt me from lifetime status. Listen, judge's ruling, valid.
If I was a judge, I'd say yes.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have listen, I know that if you're in life in prison, you did a bad, terrible thing.
Right. And
however,
and technically life in prison isn't actually what that means, but
no, it's kind of the length of time, like a term, but it also can mean if without the possibility of parole is added to that, then you are supposed to stay there forever. However, if I die and then they bring me back, I mean, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I spent a whole...
Your Honor,
I'm dead.
I served a life in prison.
Yeah, they're going to be oh, you're right. 10 years.
This is Corey DLG X2.
2.2.
I'm the reboot. Let me out.
Reboot Corey here.
You know what I would do just to mess with them, though, if they did bring me back? I would just act like I don't understand what's going on. Like I have no memory. I would just pretend to have no memory of ever being in jail or committing crimes.
Your Honor, I don't understand. I am a new person. This is a new life. I don't even know what you speak of.
My first memory is them saying, Corey, are you okay? Come back, Corey.
I don't even know if that's my real name. It's just what they call me.
I kind of feel like a Todd.
You never want to feel like a Todd.
Sometimes you feel like a Todd. Sometimes you don't. I guess we could talk about some sport. We already did. We're good.
Yeah. We can talk about baseball for like 2 minutes.
And then really this whole story started with a girl in her sports.
See, look at that. Focused like a laser beam.
Right. Like it all comes back. To quote Justin Timberlake, what goes around, goes around, goes around, comes back around.
It's true.
Yeah, so the draft's coming up. That's my favorite dumb time in the NFL.
There you go.
It's the NFL draft. And it's coming up this month, I think next week.
Is it the 20th? Is this the multi-day draft?
Yeah, they changed it now to multi-day draft, which makes it impossible to do what we used to do to celebrate the draft.
Yeah, I kind of, that was always one of my favorite times too, because it was always just like, yeah, just get a bunch of guys, big stupid party over something that doesn't matter. Because some of these guys aren't going to do anything.
And that's what we used to do. So we used to get a keg, order some pizza, and basically all of your sports head friends would come over and sit around for... The draft used to be 2 days. It used to be the first 3 or 4 rounds. I don't remember which now. would be one day, but that would take all day. That would be 9 hours of drafting. Because the first round is 15 minutes a pick. The second round is 10 minutes a pick. The third round, I think, is 5 minutes a pick, and then it's 5 minutes a pick after that. But the reality is, like, everyone's fans of their own teams or whatever, and everyone's rooting for their own stuff. But, like, this is the one time where every team at the end of the draft is like, we did it! We won! Yay!
Yep.
And everyone's like, we are the better team now. Finally, we can win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, everyone thinks they're the greatest team ever conceived.
Post-draft.
Yep.
And what's great is there'll be a local sports writer every year who's like, and they royally screwed up the draft this year when it's the first pick in the first round. They picked 12th, and 3 spots after they picked, someone picked what is definitely going to be a Pro Bowl left guard, and we desperately need one of those, but we did not take it. Instead, we drafted a third wide receiver. And you're like, listen, Todd, you can't possibly know that yet.
I mean, he'll be right, but yet.
He might be, but it's always written far too soon. But he might be.
I mean, yeah, but that's a lot of sports in general, especially when you're talking about, like, rookies and stuff. Like, I mean, who thought Mitchell Trubisky was going to be the most whatever guy on the planet? Like, he was awesome.
Very whatever.
He was awesome when he started, and then just, like, proceeded to do nothing for, like, 2.5 years.
And then still would weirdly have, like, these prolific games where they're like, see, he's our guy. And then someone else would be like, dude, he played like garbage for the last 7 weeks.
Yeah. Look how...
And they'd be like, yes, but today he was baller.
It's like, yeah, but did you see that?
Yeah. Did you see today? And they're like, yeah, we saw today, but were you here for the last 6 weeks? Like, what are we supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
And they're like, get excited.
This is it, boys. This is our big break.
Everyone else is like, no, Bears.
Or Bears.
No.
Never had a chance. Also, he has a terrible name, because I just think of Triscuits the whole time I say his name.
Well, honestly, and I don't know how some franchises do this, but the Bears just have a terrible history with quarterbacks. They've never once had, like, a good I mean, so they won the Super Bowl in 1980-something with Jim McMahon, okay? Mm-hmm. But even he had, like, a 9-year career, and only as a Chicago Bear would he ever be a good quarterback. Like, he wasn't like, oh, he could have been a great quarterback on any team. He was very much a typical Chicago Bear. In college, he gets stabbed in the eye with a fork, which makes his eyes light sensitive forever, which means every time you saw Jim McMahon not wearing a football helmet, he was wearing sunglasses.
I don't know, man. That's pretty cool.
It's kind of a neat thing, but it's also kind of like, you don't want your quarterbacks getting stabbed in the eye.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, you don't want that, but I mean, like, that means he has permanent shades, which is pretty sick.
But, like, there's just, he had bad seasons. He had very much the Chicago Bears quarterback career. Like, it's just, there are certain teams that have never had their quarterback situation, like, go the way they needed to.
Yeah, different coaches, different programs, never once.
The Browns have gone through something like 40 quarterbacks over the same time that they've gone through like 10 or 12 head coaches.
It's fine. They found their guy. They finally found their guy.
I do like Baker Mayfield. I don't know.
I like him a lot.
If 2 years from now he was totally out of the league, wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, yeah.
If 2 years from now, though, he had signed a $100 million extension with the Browns, it also wouldn't surprise me. He's right in that middle.
Yeah, he's great. I just really like the fact that he's like, just like the ultimate like Cleveland's Brown guy. Like,
he's very much a Cleveland Brown guy, and it wound up being a perfect fit. When at first it really didn't seem that way. Arizona's another franchise where I off the top of my head, on their Super Bowl run, they had Kurt Warner, but he was on his third team at that point. And he only played, I think, 3 or 4 years with with the Cardinals. And I distinctly remember they ran this crazy stat for Kurt Warner. I think statistically he was having like his second worst year. He had a really bad year the year they replaced him with Eli Manning in New York. But it turns out he played like 3 games with a concussion but wouldn't tell anybody. Yeah, but like he kept fumbling and throwing interceptions. People were like, what just happened to Kurt Warner? Turns out his head was like spinning the whole time.
Yeah.
But he didn't tell anybody.
Turns out he couldn't see straight.
Yeah. Turns out there were shadows. But so he goes to Arizona and he has like 2 or 3 good years. But they're talking about the year that they went to the Super Bowl. They're like, his QBR is one of his lowest ever. It's like an 85 or something. And then they're talking, somebody goes, yeah, but he has like 9 plays that get stopped at the 1-yard line. If his receivers score those touchdowns, his rating goes up to like a 106 or something. They're like, he's fine.
It's like, yeah, but if they make this one thing, his score, it's like when you turn an assignment from a 0.
Right. But it was really like when the guy is talking and they're showing it, like it's throughout the season, they were like, here's a 55-yard pass to Larry Fitzgerald, and he gets tackled at the 1-yard line.
Amazing.
And you're like, oh, man, that does kind of suck. Like, they score on the very next play. It doesn't matter, but, like, his rating doesn't get the benefit of, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden.
Right, yeah.
Then that stuff matters. But, yeah, there are certain franchises who just never get it right. One of the ones who has always seemed to know who their quarterback was is San Francisco. San Francisco has always had their quarterback. They've always been a team with stability at the quarterback position for the most part. Here recently, the last 10 years, that hasn't necessarily been the case. Last 15 years, I would say. But behind Jimmy Garoppolo, they thought they had their guy. They signed him to an extension. It just hasn't worked out. He came back from his injury, and he just wasn't the same leader, impactful member of the team that they thought they had before. And it hasn't worked out that way. But they feel like internally they are a quarterback away from being a great franchise again. They feel like they are a quarterback away from competing in Super Bowl. Now the
legendary statement.
I know, I hate that statement. Now they were in a Super Bowl 2 years. They're the ones who they lost to the Chiefs, so they were in Super Bowl 2 years ago. They are now saying that this is their run back year. However, they have traded a king's ransom to probably draft a rookie quarterback.
You know what we call those? Not it, Chief.
Yeah, to me personally, I'm with you. I don't think you're not anything away if that's what you do.
You're never. Has there ever been a rookie quarterback who wins the Super Bowl? I don't think so, right?
Off the top of my head, no.
Yeah,
no.
So you're not going to...
But there have been rookie quarterbacks who went. Actually, Ben Roethlisberger, they might have won his rookie season, but it wasn't because of him. Their defense and running game was great.
Right. So they made up for him being a rookie versus like...
Basically.
Oh, this rookie completely carried the team, guys.
Well, and he had good games and bad games, but when they got to the Super Bowl, I think he went like 7 for 20 and wasn't good. But between everything, they did just enough to score to win a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Right. But Dan Marino went as a rookie, and he lost. But walking off the field, everyone was like, "Dude, don't even worry about it, dude. Dan, you had a great rookie year. You're gonna be back here. You've been amazing. Never made it back to the Super Bowl."
Oh man, it's like peaking in high school.
Sort of. It's sort of. And actually, when he was on, there was a famous little dust up. Shannon Sharp. And his rise to sports talk fame, he was a very outspoken tight end too, and a Hall of Famer. So he's one of the few guys who could say this and get away with it. But he's on CBS Sports with Marino and one of the coaches, and then one of the announce table guys, and they're doing a thing talking about how important is it to have a Super Bowl and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And Dan Marino's like, listen, I wanted one. I wish I'd have had one, et cetera, but blah, blah, blah. And then they get to Shannon Sharp, and he's talking. And as the segment is ending and they're going to break, he's finishing his thought, and he says, you just don't want to wind up being another Dan Marino. And he's sitting next to Dan Marino. And you can see Dan Marino look at him, but then they go to break. Or then they throw it to the game or whatever it was that they were doing. And so, like, they have to release a statement, like, the next day or that afternoon where they kind of clarify it because everyone is on it. Everyone's like, Shannon Sharp just go after Dan Marino like that on TV? Like, what just happened? And he wound up clarifying it in a way that, honestly, even Dan Marino was like, no, I agree with that. And it's that Dan Marino's career will always be discussed in a way of he's great, he's done this, he's done that, and he's amazing, but he didn't win a Super Bowl.
Right.
And what Shannon Sharp was trying to say was, if you don't get one in those rare chances when you get the opportunity, you will forever be discussed like Dan Marino.
Right.
And Dan Marino was like, no, it is like the first thing people bring up when they talk about me. And he was, a record holder and a prolific guy, and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Drew Brees have essentially erased Dan Marino from all of the record books. But
for the time,
at the time, he was the most statistically prolific quarterback in the NFL.
Even if he wasn't the most prolific quarterback in the NFL. Which is
a couple Super Bowls would have helped.
It's that classic stats versus like actual performance. It's the reason Dak Prescott's not that good. Because he's got good stats, but he's not on a not good team.
Right. He's got good stats, but that win-loss record kind of shows you something.
Right, yeah. It's like, well, who cares about your good stats if your team's a 500 team the whole time?
Well, okay, congratulations. You threw for 400 yards. Your team lost today.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's kind of important.
He's better. It's okay. He's better than Aaron Rodgers, though.
God, that does. It's funny. At the time, you were so right about how much it was driving you crazy. And it was funny to me, and it was dumb that someone had done it and made that argument. And then the more like that season played out and just the time since then, who's been so much better, it's so clearly obvious that Dak Prescott had no business even being in that conversation.
Right.
That it was like, how did they even, like, are they still paying the guy who said that? Like, how did they get there? But so the San Francisco 49ers, they gave up 3 first-round draft picks and a third to move into what was the Texans' draft pick. However, they had sent it to Miami in the Laramie Tunsil trade. Miami had 2 first-round picks, both one in the top 3, obviously, one number 3. And then I think theirs was like 12th or something. So what they did is they traded out of the 3rd spot because they think they have their quarterback. And there's going to be a run on quarterbacks at the very top of this thing.
Yeah.
And then they turned around and traded back into like the 7 spot with their 12th pick. And they paid a premium to get back into the top 10. But they got so much trading that 3rd pick that they're still ahead, kind of.
Yeah.
In the draft capital of it all.
In the
draftital. I don't know. I almost think I would have just stayed at 12 if I was the Dolphins.
Yeah, like, is the 2 spots really going to, like, break you?
Well, no. They moved up like 5 or 6 spots. Okay. But what I think they're going to do is I think they're going to get, like, they want to come in right behind all the teams taking the quarterbacks, and they want to get one of the top 2 wide receivers.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, and so they're not crazy for what they did. I almost maybe would have reached out to one of these teams going like 5th and then maybe move back from 3rd to 5th, and then with that 12th pick, just dumped it completely, just traded it totally out. Because he did only wind up with 1 pick in the first round after it's all said and done anyway. Right. That probably would have been the more affordable way to do it. But I'm sure you don't. Well, you just don't turn it down when someone offers you 3 first-round picks.
No, you really can't.
And that's what the 49ers did. So basically, the 49ers are saying, once we draft this quarterback, we're going right back to the Super Bowl. Because they're saying they don't need 2 more good young players.
They just need
years.
1.
If they get this guy, they're not going to need those other 2. Is basically what they're saying with that trade. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, I don't like the math, but whatever, dude.
Yeah, I've never been as strong on the 49ers as I guess as they've been, but also now I'm seeing a lot of people like on ESPN and other places pick them like as a dark horse, and I don't see it, Chief. I'm not that excited about them, but there's all these. But a lot of people are. I don't know, man. It's not who I would pick in that situation. Like if you were like Corey, make a list of who do you think is a possible Super Bowl winning team. I don't put the 49ers on the list.
Who do you put on the list?
Oh, that's a good question. So here's my problem. On the NFC side, which is where the 49ers would have to come through, I think the Seahawks are better than them in the same division. I think Tampa Bay, they reloaded. They kept almost there. Coming out of the Super Bowl, they had a list of like 8 guys who were on expiring deals. And famously, their head coach was like, if we keep 4 or 5 of these guys, we'll be okay. I think they kept all of them.
It's because they want to try again. They're like, heck yeah, dude, that party was lit.
Well, that was crazy. I think the only one they haven't re-signed is Antonio Brown. And apparently he's asked very nicely to come back. And I think they're still just trying to ponder it. And if they could get away with not signing him, I think they will, because I don't think they want him back. But Tom Brady enjoyed having him around, apparently. But they gave Tom Brady Gronk. So I think they're hoping that that's enough. But listen, they just won the Super Bowl in a convincing fashion over a very good Chiefs team. You obviously put them in the driver's seat until they change something.
Yeah, until this team changes drastically.
Yeah, like if they had lost most of these 8 guys, then it would absolutely be fair to be like, man, I don't know how they're going to reload, but they do have a draft coming up, so maybe. And you could go back to asking questions, but literally they kept the Super Bowl team together, and they're going to be drafting people. So
yeah, like we have opportunity to improve, and the team is still just as good.
Right, and the Super Bowl team is still together. So that's still just in the NFC.
Right.
There's 2 teams that I would put firmly ahead of them. I mean, that's not even running through the whole NFC. I do think.
Yeah, because you have to be better to get to the Super Bowl. You have to be better than both of those teams.
Yeah, you have to be better than the Seahawks because they're in your conference or they're in your division, and you have to be better than Tampa Bay because they just represented your entire conference in the Super Bowl, and I don't think they're better than either one of those.
Right.
I think the 49ers are about on that 500 level with teams like Dallas, and I don't know. Dallas is going to be getting Dak Prescott back, and maybe they win 10 games. Maybe they win, 11.
Maybe they just go 7-7 like they have for the past forever.
Right. And now, if they get to 11 wins, though, then they're probably in the second round of the playoffs.
Right, because even Tampa Bay didn't even do super amazing during the regular season.
No, they actually at one point were 500, and teams.
What were they?
The league was essentially
like 9-5.
They were. I think they. No. Yeah, they were like. I think they were 6-6, and then they finished 10-6.
Okay.
But yeah, now Drew Brees just retired, but if the Saints get something out of the quarterback position, if Jamarcus Russell plays great. God, I mean, well, okay, all right. Well, let's be clear. Jamarcus Russell had every half season was amazing from Jamarcus Russell. The problem was the other half season.
Right.
So if he can fix those mistakes,
yeah,
with his LASIK and with Sean Payton and a year under Drew Brees, let's assume he fixes half of those mistakes. He's gonna have the Saints are gonna look really good.
Right. Yeah. And look, someone who actually cares about their other quarterback, and now it's going to pay off for them.
Right. Well, and they've been doing that.
Teddy Bridgewater.
So yeah, I think if you go through the NFC, there's probably 5 or 6 teams ahead of them, and I don't think he just gets a leapfrog because he drafted a quarterback.
Right, and I don't think there's a quarterback in this draft that's so good that whoever drafts this is gonna break the game.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's not a Michael Vick type.
Right.
Nico, go ahead and tell our friends about the Adventure Bins, comics, games, and more. We're going to jump out and take a break. And then when we come back, we've got a little Deshaun Watson talk.
All right. Yes, our friends. The Adventure Begins, comics, games, and more is open and at full operating hours. You are going to need a mask if you want to come inside. And if you want to be a little bit more safe, they do have delivery and curbside options available. So, got to make sure I have all the dates correct. They do have events running back up. So, today is Thursday. So, tomorrow, Friday, April 16th at 6 p.m. is the Star Wars X-Wing Casual Meetup. Saturday, April 17th at 2 p.m. is the Pokemon Casual Meetup. And another April 17th at 6 p.m. this time is Hammer Time. Warhammer Tabletops meetups are back in action. That community is there. It's pretty cool. Bunch of nice guys. The Adventure Begins, comics, games, and more. Family friendly, well lit, super clean, super fantastic store, wonderful staff. The Adventure Begins, comics, games, and more right there for $14.88. They got all your gaming and comic book needs.
Woo!
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we're going to jump out to a break. When we come back, we got more Nerd Thug Sports coming your way. The Adventure Begins, comics, games, and more is a wonderful store located right there on 1488 in Conroe that sells comic books, gaming cards, gaming accessories, board games, as well as all kinds of fun, nerd assorted accessories. This is Corey DLG of Nerd Thug Radio, just reminding you that if you're interested, and if you're bored, if you got some free time, if you wanted to go hang out at an interesting or fun place, the Adventure Begins should be an option you consider. Everything from D&D Adventurers League to miniature painting, to even competitive card play, and even competitive gaming events. All those things occur at the Adventure Begins comics, games, and more. Interested parties should absolutely check out the Facebook page for more information.
This is Rudy Tomjanovich, and welcome to Nerd Thug Radio.
Welcome back to Nerd Thug Sports right here on 104.5, 106.1, these sister stations. We're hanging out here on this Thursday afternoon. We're winding the hour down. We're almost to 3 o'clock at the end of the show. But before we do that, we still got more sports to talk about. And so we're here to talk to you about your sports.
Your sports.
Sports.
It's our new app that we're working on. Tells you how long the baseball season's still going.
It's just a countdown to when it's over?
Yep.
And then it starts the clock to when it starts again?
Yep.
That would be a terrible but funny app.
Yep. Why is it so long?
Why is it still ticking? It's just always ticking. So, it started to happen, Nico.
What's happening?
Started to happen.
Oh, God.
So, I'm going to start a story with bad news, and then we're going to start to see a little bit of light for Deshaun Watson.
Okay. Well, okay. I mean, this story so far has just been super awful, so anything would make it better, I assume.
So the Texans have started very quietly removing Deshaun Watson from their PR presence. They started removing him from images in the background and things of that nature, from videos that are on the website and things like that. They've started slowly removing the presence of Deshaun Watson.
The presence of Deshaun?
That's right. It's like depression, but he's there. And what they're trying to do, obviously, is quietly take a couple steps back from a star quarterback who potentially is going to be found guilty in several civil trials for assaulting and harassing women. It's going to be a bad look. So they're starting to back away. Right. However, what I thought would start to happen is starting to happen. And one of the 22 civil suits is dropped out.
So 21.
We're down to 21. But I think this is the start of what's going to happen. The judges upheld that the lawsuits are incorrectly filed as anonymous. So now these people have to publicly put their name on these statements.
Right. Because it is the law. That is how this works.
Right.
You can't sue someone and never tell them who you are.
Right. I mean, if that's the case, I'm dropping bombs on vote.
Right. Yeah. I'm suing you as McDonald's, but not really.
So now people are going to start really questioning how involved they want to be. They're going to start really looking into these stories now that they can get people identified. Here's the other thing. One of the reasons you want these names to go public, if you're the defense, isn't because of the harassment, although that is going to be a big help for you. But it's because you need to find the people who are going to help you discredit these witnesses.
Right, yeah. It's very important to know, I mean, even just knowing where you are, it vastly changes, like, the dynamic, because you're like, well, now I know who this person is. I know when we could have interacted. I know the situation now. Because if it's just like, you did this one time, and it's like, well, I have no idea who you even are.
Right, yeah, exactly. But now I can target when that was.
Yeah. Who are you? When we would have ever had contact.
And now the details kind of become subject to a little public prosecution a little bit. For example, the first victim, the one who started all of this, according to her story, they did this in her home. She had Deshaun Watson come to her house where she performed massage therapy on him. And then I guess he touched her with his little Deshaun a couple times and was kind of like, hey, don't you want to help me out with this? And she was like, no, I don't. And she was so just overwhelmed by that. She could never heal again. She could never help people heal without thinking about it now. However, I think they finished the session, it sounded like. And then she still worked with him a couple more times. That's when I start to have a hard time with it. I don't want to go through and nitpick people's stories, and I don't want to say who's lying and not lying. But I've always had a hard time when we get into the realm of behavior that I can't quite understand. And I don't want to attack a behavior, and I don't want to say, like, oh, well, that's totally... People do that. So, okay, we lost our dad, and our grief hit you and I differently.
Right.
After that, now before that, when people were like, he acted so weird, blah, 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 his wife had just died, and he acted like nothing was wrong. And before our dad died, I had never lost anyone close to me. And I felt like, okay, yeah, you could totally say that. You can judge that person for that. Post our dad dying, I feel like you really can't do that. Like,
yeah,
you really
so many
can't.
People process things so differently.
They do. And you really put something on that. You can't be like, oh, well, he didn't grieve the way normal people grieve. And it's like, that is not for you to say. But having said that, I don't know that I would invite someone who sexually assaulted me back into my house for multiple sessions post that.
Right.
That's a hard thing for me to wrap my head around. Not saying it's not possible. Not saying that's not what was needed to be done. I'm not saying she didn't. She had bills to pay. She was building a career. I understand the other
Or like
implications.
maybe it was like a contractual thing, like I had 4 sessions or whatever.
Maybe, or maybe she really thought that when he apologized, admit it, and we could move on. I don't know. I don't know, but I have a hard time.
It's hard. It's hard to wrap your head around, but it's not unforeseeable that
exactly. But it is something that if I was on a jury, I would really need to see her testify, and I would really need to know the reason why, and it would be a judgment call.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know.
And, it could have been, one of the things where like he comes back and like it's very clinical. Like now, like she just has to get it over with, and like that's like we don't know like if that's how the week went or if it was
maybe
just kind of awkward.
But yeah.
Because I completely understand the scenario where it's like something happens with someone and then you walk into the same room as them and you have to be there.
Yeah, but it's glutes and quads again. Like, I don't know, man. Like, because she'd have to get all up in that business again 3 more times, 2 more times, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Even as I'm sitting here talking about it, I don't know that I don't know that I can see it.
I mean, it's just one of the things that we can't really tell.
Yeah, it's just she'd be right up in that area of business again. Like, man, that either makes him a terrible person, like the worst of worst of worst, or I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
I have a hard time. I don't
like. It's either it makes him even worse or it's not true. Like,
yeah, there's really only, you're right. Yeah, okay. There's only 2 ways out of that, right? Like, he's either a sociopath.
Right. He's either even worse than like before, because it's like, yeah, I made you come back.
Right. I made you come back and touch right next to it 3 more times. Look at it. Like, he would be the world's biggest D-bag at that. I don't know. And there's nothing to base it on. I've never met him. But
yeah,
you would have
and
to
it's not like he's been horribly. I feel like he hasn't even really been all that public either.
No, he's been a private person, but you'd have to be like a statistically super unique individual to be both pro athlete and sociopath.
I mean, I feel like not really, but
I don't know. I feel like the lightning would have to strike twice because those are 2 very different, distinct things.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Either way, it's not a good scenario. You said there was good parts to this story.
Well, the good part is that one of the lawsuits is dropped. And I do think that's going to start happening. I think as people start to really weigh how much they want to get involved in this and how much their story is going to hold up, and if it's
right, yeah, the number's down to 21.
But as the names come out and things like of that nature, and it's like,
we'll see when we have all the names and how many are still left.
Right. Listen, if this goes from 22 to like 6, I think those 6 lawsuits are on thin ice. Because everyone in Houston knows how many lawsuits there were, and now they would know that a bunch dropped off. So like now we know.
Watch it go from like 22 to like 19.
Okay, now if that happens, okay. So the reason I was going to say from 22 to 6 would be a problem is because now it just looks like these are the 6 women who are just greedy, who are hanging on for a payday. But if it drops from 22 to like 19, and 19 women are willing to go through this year-long process of court cases and testifying and psychiatric, and all of this other stuff.
Testifying, yeah. It's just
if 19 women are willing to do that, now you're in a different boat.
Yeah.
But I want to say this also. When women we keep saying women, but it's mostly women in this situation just because of the setting of it. But when an accuser files only a civil case and does not pursue criminal charges, that already puts their credibility on a downhill for me.
Right.
And that has been the case for all of these. There's a couple who have cooperated with police, but they did not press charges at the time of the incidents, and they did not press charges even after the civil suits were filed. If I'm Tony Busby, I think the real way to win these cases is honestly to have 22 criminal cases pending against him. That's your real leverage.
Right, because if you win those, it's very easy to do a civil suit after that.
Well, you force him to pay you a lot of money to make those go away is what happens. At that point, true or false, he does not want to go through 22 legal trials and then 22 civil trials.
Exactly.
But none of these women initially started with their claims in criminal. The police have contacted some of these women and are talking in communication with a couple of them and have started an investigation, but it's all post-fact.
Right.
And it's all a little bit because of public pressure, honestly.
So we will see. Time will tell, as I always say, because it is true.
This is going to be just an ongoing story for a while. Now, listen, like I said, if over the next 2 weeks a bunch of these accusers drop off, the tone of the story will change greatly.
Right. But if they don't, then it also shifts just the other direction.
Yeah, if we get to whenever the first any court thing is, whatever that may be, and the courts are backed up because of COVID and all sorts of other stuff too. But if we get to the first real court date, and there's still, 19, 18 accusers, then Deshaun Watson is facing a real problem.
Yeah, I don't think his career is going to survive that one.
I don't think so
at least
either.
For a few.
But if you get to the court date and there's like 5 accusers, 7 accusers, something like that, and the rest of all dropped off,
it's a lot.
It changes everything. It changes a lot of the optics. It changes a lot of it. Suddenly, this becomes an issue of. Now, granted, listen, if I'm coming into court and there's down to 5, I do write some checks at that point.
Yeah,
I don't want this to go to court. Let's just look. What's the number? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
But God, you know what I'm just thinking about because I just said that. I bet he wishes now he'd just paid the $100,000 or whatever it was to Tony Busby
the first time,
the first accuser, and just been like, "Man, I don't want to do this."
He's really just not made a real lot of good decisions.
It feels like that, but it also it's a back and forth, right? Like we talked about when that was going on, what the number was. Like we said, if the number was high, that means he's guilty. If the number is low, it means he's just buying somebody off. 100,000 is kind of right in the middle of that. I would have had a real problem if the number had been like 110 or something. I'd have been like, I don't know if that means he's guilty or not. You know what I mean? Like that would have left it in that questionable area, and I think that's the issue. I think if Tony Busby had called him and been like, "Hey, my client wants $19,000," he'd be like, "What am I doing? Opening a salon for her? Like, what is this? That's fine, whatever." But I think when he showed up, it was like, "My client wants $100,000." He was like, "This is a shakedown, and I'm not doing it."
Right.
But I don't know. It'll be interesting. What are we doing on time? Are we at it? All right. On behalf of little brother Nico and myself, Corey DLG, on behalf of The Adventure Begins, Comics, Games, and More, same Nerd Thug time, same Nerd Thug channel. Let's all get those vaccines. The new variants are starting to spread, and that's going to be a problem. A new study was released that showed that states with stronger mask rules did not see upticks the following month. So let's keep wearing our masks while we get these vaccines going. Let's get this thing taken care of. Here in Texas, in Houston, I got my first text message that there were open appointments. I went and looked. There weren't any that fit my schedule because they were all at 7 a.m. But we are now starting to see appointments available for regular folk. So let's get our vaccines. Let's get this thing done. I know there's some interesting news in the headlines about like the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Guys, if you're worried about 6 blood clots, but you're not worried about 500,000 people dying, you might be listening to the wrong news stations. Let's get this taken care of. Let's get people healthy. Let's get this thing nipped in the bud. All right. Thanks for listening. We will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Nerd Thug Radio on a Friday afternoon. That sounds lovely. Thanks for listening. See you guys then.